last big contract.
So now let's look at it
especially coming off those injuries. He's got to cash in on this payday.
Yep, I totally agree. So now let's look at from the option from the club's perspective. His contract is it I'm assuming it's like June of 19. Is that right, Jared? Pints?
Yeah.
Okay. So in June of 19, so
end of next season.
End of next season, he is worth to us. I mean, we're only going to get $25 million for him. So then, how old is he now?
29.
Let's make sure we get this right because we're not very good at age here.
It's 29.
He will turn 29 next month.
Yeah.
He'll be 30. He'll be
30 at that point.
Okay. So from the club's perspective, what's a 30-year-old defender who's played one season in 2 years? Don't get me wrong. I'm not denigrating his play at all. He's phenomenal. But what's a 30-year-old? Is he worth Virgil van Dijk's money at 30 years old? And the other question that I have for you guys is, do you have to do that deal now? When you know that he's only worth 20, the worst case is you have a $25 million check for him in a year.
So the timing of it, I think you do need to do it between now and the summer. Otherwise, you're entering the situation that Arsenal was in with Sanchez. You know, your players going in on 1 year left. Because really, like we're talking about, if it's rumored with the $25 million release clause, someone's going to pay that if you exercise your option. So let's call it what it is. It's 1 year left. Because if you rely on that, he's gone in the summer. So...
But no differently than Toby, right, should want to deserve as high of a wage as anybody is willing to pay him now. Shouldn't Spurs use their optionality, see what he's worth? I mean, when they need to pay him, they don't need to pay him now. Now maybe you could argue, Tim, I think this is your point, is that you lose all the aggravation by signing him. I don't know. I mean, I just don't think it's all that cut and dry. Oh, he's a great. I mean, all the moaning. I mean, he's a great player. I hear you, but how many situations? I mean, here we are. We lost Kyle Walker. I didn't want to lose him. None of us here, I think, did. Mm-mm. But life has gone on without Kyle Walker. I wished he was here.
I think the difference in that is if Toby's gone. I mean, Davinson Sanchez has been playing so well, and that's different than what we had behind Walker.
Well, that's true. I mean, I think the sky's falling. Sorry, go ahead.
If you want to look at it in terms of, you know, do you go out and make a shock sale? What's Toby Alderweireld worth to? I don't know what teams would possibly be linked to. You know, maybe going back to Atletico Madrid. Is Real Madrid interested? Is Barcelona interested? Or one of these big name clubs outside of the Premier League? I would like to put my foot down on that. But you know, the Walker deal, obviously, he went to City. What's he worth to somebody else? And is it worth going ahead and cashing in on him and then going and getting a young stud center back somewhere to bring in and supplant? Vertonghen's going to be, you know, he's going to be what, 30 next year? So, you know, that's another one that is playing out of his skin right now, but he's not injury prone. You know, he had the one serious injury, but it was a legitimate ankle. I mean, he turned the thing completely over and missed some legitimate time, but when you have these players that suffer these muscular injuries, it begs a different question because it becomes a little bit systemic. You know, just like the Lamela situation is. You know, that's why they haven't offered him a new contract yet. I would almost guarantee it. They want to see what his health is going to do so that they can make a decision that's best for the team and best for the club. Why not sell Toby and cash in? You're going to get a hell of a lot more than $50 million, you know, for Toby. You're going to almost double that probably.
Cheers has a really good attitude when it comes to this stuff. He's like, I don't know. It's all conjecture, so who cares? You know, I'm not. You know, it's not even worth speculating on it. And you know, and there's some truth to that. And everybody has just been so. I mean, it's been a rough week on Twitter, and everybody. Yeah. I mean, you bring up a very valid point there, Ken. I mean, I'm not so sure that you can draw the line and say that if Toby were to be sold to Juve for £40 million or 50 or whatever the number is, 75. I mean, you name it. Does that mean that Spurs are not ambitious? You could argue.
Yeah.
And I'm not necessarily making this argument, but you could make the argument that you're actually being ambitious, that you've now raised 50 to 75 million pounds, and we've proven over the past 5 years that we can actually, you know, we can spend less and get more, relatively speaking, than most clubs. And he's going to be, the fact remains, he'll be a 30-year-old defender when we need to re-sign him, or when we have to re-sign him. Yeah, I don't know. I just don't know if it's all that cut and dry.
And I don't believe that we're saying that he's done just because he's hitting 30. there are a multitude of center backs. Chiellini comes to mind. A few others that play well into their 30s.
But is he worth 150,000 pounds a week? Is he worth 150,000 pounds a week at 30 years old? I mean, that's what a Levy should be asking himself.
Right, and again, we go back to fans and we talk about. So you have the Toby contract. There have been so many fans since I've been a fan that hate the way modern football is run. It's run by money. It's all about sponsorship deals, and it's all about TV money. And it's killing our game. They're changing the rules. It's not what it used to be. Our friends over at the Fighting Cock have the 1882 movement that kind of leans towards that and kind of trying to slap modern football in the face a little bit. Give us our football that we've grown up with. And now these are the same people that are saying, give Toby whatever the fuck he wants. When it comes to monetary value. Why? Because he's on our team, and we love him. When he's played, he's been out of this world great. And he's probably made Jan Vertonghen the player that he is now. Because Jan, who remembers him sitting in the tunnel getting ready to go out under AVB looking like he was totally disinterested in being there, and everybody thought he was on the outs. Here comes Toby Alderweireld, and now Jan Vertonghen's a world-class center back for Tottenham Hotspur. The chemistry in the locker room thing that Tim brought up is I think is going to play a part in this. And Pochettino, I think, has a big decision to make this summer. And I do believe that this contract is going to go all the way into the summer. They are going to have to make a decision. Do you fish or cut bait on Toby Alderweireld? I think it's going to be pretty pronounced.
My final thoughts on it are...
could define his leadership role here.
My final thoughts on this are, we want him to stay because he is a great player. If you can work out the deal, work it out. But come June, if you can't get that contract agreed, we got to sell him, because if that release clause comes into play, a rival from England is going to snap him up.
Yeah.
At least if we're selling him this summer, we can control where he wants to go. He can still go to a big club. He can go to Bayern, Juve, back to Atletico.
Yeah.
He can still go to a big club and play Champions League, and we can do it to where we don't have to see him in the league.
Right. And I hope that Toby Alderweireld does whatever is best for Toby and his family. And listen, this is his last big contract.
I don't. I want him to stay here and play for us. I don't care about people.
What's to say that's not the best thing for Toby and his family?
If you're running the club, Timmy, today, do you pay him $175,000? Do you pay him $150,000 a week today? Do you just re-sign him and pay it?
I would think no. We just I don't see us affording that, just because, like I said earlier, all the other.
Are you a shit fan? You have a lack of desire for thinking that way?
I would backload the shit out of that contract with matches played. If you want me to give you that kind of money, you know what? I will give you that kind of money. Show up 35 weeks a year. Put some kind of timeline, some kind of incentive clause in there that says you're going to play this amount of games. And if your injuries deter you from doing that, you're only going to make this. Backload the contract with games played. I don't know if they do that in the Premier League or not on some of these contracts. But I see it all the time in other sports. Everything is incentive laden. And we've talked until we're out of breath about how Tottenham's contracts must be incentive laden. They're paying a lot more than whatever is getting reported out there, one way or the other. I think we have an opportunity to keep him. I just think we need to be very careful on how we do it. Fixture comparisons. Let's switch gears a little bit. Chairs, I know that you were looking at this earlier in the week, and then coming into this match, we now have an opportunity to start making up some ground. Yes.
Yeah, so currently we're at 55 points for this stage of the season. Last year that was 59, so we're 4 points off the pace. Remember, 86 was the golden mark. We can't get there. I think if we win the remaining matches, we would fall just short. So for the same fixtures, home and away against the same clubs, we're off the pace by 10 points. That's currently at 65. But here's where it gets interesting. If you think of the next four matches, those corresponding fixtures last year, and again, Huddersfield would be matched up for Sunderland. we actually drop some points, so it starts to level out. So by the end of that, the disparity is not 6 points between the same pace last season. It drops down to just 4. Then it drops down to just 1. So it's all starting to level out. But again, we've got 10 games left. And we really need to kick on now to get maximum points because, again, we've said it throughout the season. Our run-in last year was pretty phenomenal. I think I made the point yesterday to Sam. We were 13-2 when the transfer window ended. So what's that? 6 points dropped in 15 games, which was a pretty impressive run-in. It would never have allowed us to catch up with Chelsea. Damage was done in the middle of the season, kind of like this year with that terrible patch in November when we were losing and drawing every game. So
you mean when Sam quit podcasting?
I think so. Yeah.
I'm back to it. It's all good.
So that's the update right now. At this stage, though, we're back in fourth after today. It's a case of carrying on with that. We've got City play Arsenal again midweek to catch up on the game that was postponed from today. So it'd be nice if City could go stuff the Wankers again. And then I think they play Chelsea on the weekend. So if we can do the business on Huddersfield, we put daylight between us and Chelsea before we have to go there in, 4 games time? Or it'll be 3 at that point, because we know that's always a tough fixture. So it'd be nice to go there and get something out of the game. But if we didn't, we know they still couldn't overtake us as long as we take care of business ourselves. And that's going to be the important thing.
Interesting. That does say a lot, actually. I want to quickly talk about Rio Griffiths. So, like last week or the week before, we were talking about the kid that scored a hat trick against Arsenal, and we couldn't figure out who he was or remember what his name was. And then all of a sudden, he's bagging another one, I believe, against Reading. This past weekend. He's got 22 goals in 20 matches, and he's playing in the U18s. He is a 17-year-old. Obviously one for the future, and apparently Leipzig and a few other clubs from Europe are kind of sniffing around at this kid and wanting to make some inquisitions on his availability. For all that we have talked about here recently with Llorente's struggles, is Keziah Sterling ready to step up and maybe take on that role? This is another youngster that we can definitely look at. I would hope that whatever summer tour that Tottenham does this year, that this kid gets a chance.
There's none.
What's
the
that?
World Cup. I don't think there's a summer tour. World Cup.
Oh, that's right. Crap. You're absolutely right, Tim. Well,
and
that's
we
what I do.
Well, with all of our guys being out for World Cup, maybe he gets a first-team look while Poch is maybe there still working with the youngsters. It's going to be interesting to see what this kid's future holds. Again, 22 and 20, it makes it kind of sound similar to a certain someone that's currently banging in goals for the senior club right now. Simon, Arsenal Fan TV was quite fun today. Chelsea also losing. We don't really like to, I know at least Sam and Tim don't like us to talk so much about other clubs, but man, it was really a good day of football outside of Tottenham.
It was. I mean, right after us, Chelsea go and lose at Old Trafford. I think the draw would have been better for us in our ambitions to overhaul United and Liverpool, but we're still only 2 points behind the Scousers, so anything's possible there. And I think, what are we, 3-4 points behind United? So I know we don't have to play any of those guys, so destiny's in our hands, but relying on them to do stuff. And then, of course, followed from that was the Carabao Cup final, and I just find it highly amusing. We got to say, well done, Kyle Walker. You got a trophy, and you could see it meant a lot to him. We got to get rid of that bipartisan approach, and obviously he's gone and won a trophy straight away. Which
fucking snake.
We're 10 years. I think I made a post on our members page yesterday. That is the longest gap between trophies since. I can't remember what I put on there, but it goes to show that the drought will continue for us, and we got a great opportunity this season to do that now, especially when City went out of the cup on Monday. And of course, any time Arsenal lose, and it happened on Thursday, You talk about complacency, and I think Wenger, when he used the same excuse today, we were not ready for this. We were too complacent. We were inconsistent.